8 days ago, hours after the DevGru units who raided dams and prison camps along the northern coast extracted, 2 teams from the USA were sent in. One team, made up of US Marines, landed behind enemy lines south of the country's major northern port. Over the next few hours they made their way north, removing junta checkpoints along the way to ensure no QRF would arrive to their rear once the port was engaged. Upon arriving at the port, they found an overwatch position and called in assistance from the fleet, at which time 2 Little Birds were sent to support. Both aircraft were shot down by handheld anti-aircraft weaponry, likely Stingers sold to the Colombians in the past, after making their first run. Once this occurred, the team moved on a small cartel settlement just outside the port walls, killing many members of the cartel and finding intelligence about a stash they had at the port. Marine teams breached the port walls and cleared out the office buildings before finding a working radio and intercepting a message from the junta's high command. The message stated that the once fought dead President Alvarez was still alive and was being evacuated upon an ammunition. Whilst this was happening, a team of US Rangers landed 5 to 6 kilometers to the west. Their goal was to move towards a checkpoint on the main road heading south. Despite landing scattered, they managed to regroup within minutes. Upon arriving, a truck passed through the checkpoint. However, they were unable to neutralize it. The second truck and the Humvee escort, however, were destroyed. The Rangers neutralized all enemy contact at the location before hiding evidence of their presence and setting up ambush positions. A second convoy with the same setup arrived and was swiftly destroyed. As this happened, Lieutenant Cora received a message from High Command relaying the message the Marines intercepted. Fortunately, Alvarez was not found in the wreckage. It is to be assumed he was on the first truck that managed to make its way through the checkpoint unharmed. However, due to this information, the Rangers were restricted on explosive weapons towards any future convoys. As they headed down the road towards the main city that held the only road to the airport, the US Marines cleared out the port, allowing for reinforcements to be landed via helicopter to assist in holding the location. They destroyed the cartel warehouse, which was discovered to hold an estimated $30 million of cocaine, as well as weapons and at least 1 vehicle. The reinforcing Marines would hold the eastern entrance to the port, whilst the original force would hold the west against multiple stages of contact, including multiple LAVs from the junta's armoured forces and at least 2 Hueys, 1 gunship and 1 armed with just door guns. Once the attacks had died down and more Marines had been landed, they would make their way towards the airport. Minimal losses were taken on the Marine front. US Rangers on their way into the city would come across another convoy which they quickly captured, and multiple members of the cartel performing executions on the local populace. Unfortunately, by the time they had arrived, one of the civilians held captive had already been killed, but the other 2 were freed after handing over what information they had on the junta. Both have since been admitted into our frontline hospital and have been evacuated to a safe location. The Ranger forces slowly pushed through the city, taking heavy fire from all angles. Junta forces lined the rooftops and streets. M113s, LAVs and other armed vehicles were holed up in quickly made defensive positions. The enemy also made use of mortars, SPGs and heavy machine guns. Around the city, 2 artillery positions that threatened our naval forces lay, and 1 AA position was also positioned inside the town. All were taken care of by the Rangers. Unexpected resistance arrived at one point, a T-55. We suspect it to have been brought from Venezuela, close allies of the junta's new allies in Russia. Fortunately, the Marine force had spotted it leaving the airfield on their way to capture it, and had already called in support. It was taken out by a GBU from Allied air forces. The actions of 1 junta soldier stood out on this day. Private Anton, a conscript in the junta's army, aided Private Clown in his time of need, stabilizing his wounds and even firing upon his own squad mates to save Clown's life. In return, Private Clown and his squad protected Anton and brought him to our new forward HQ, where he has been taken as a prisoner of war, but will be treated as one of our own, and recommendations will be made to the new government once the junta is deposed for his heroics. Unfortunately, during the attack on the 2nd Artillery position, a large portion of Bravo Squad was lost to a lone HMG on the hillside. Tomorrow, US Army forces will be heading out Operation to find the former president.